Delayed registration of an FIR, a crime scene trampled all over. Attempts to pass off a horrific rape and murder as suicide. Now, the Kolkata rape and murder case has outraged India, but it has once again spotlighted severe deficiencies in the conduct of the police. Now, the Supreme Court, while hearing this case, said this of the Kolkata police, and I quote Justice Pardiwala, "The entire procedure followed by your state police," he said, "is something I have not encountered in 30 years. He was speaking about the way the Kolkata police has conducted a shoddy investigation into this heinous case. Now, 18 years ago, in 2006, the Supreme Court delivered a historic verdict in the Prakash Singh versus Union of India case. Prakash Singh was a former DGP who petitioned the apex court for implementing police reforms. The Supreme Court made 7 landmark directives in that case. And today we are looking at how many of those reforms have been implemented and what indeed keeps them from being implemented. Because the police in India are being seen as corrupt and overburdened. They are under the executive. They have unchecked power. The political executive has impacted their functioning, their credibility, and there's the emergence of new crimes like cybercrimes, and there's calls for technological upgradation of the police system with forensics and more modern technology. Police reforms have been debated in India for over 3 decades, but why have they not been implemented so far? And joining me to discuss this today are Dr Vikram Singh, former DGP Uttar Pradesh Police, and my colleague in the studio, Mr. Ashok Bagariya. Gentlemen, welcome to the News 9 Plus show. Dr. Singh, I want to start by asking you this. Case after case, we come back to that original argument, that case filed by our predecessor in the UP police, Mr. Prakash Singh, police reforms. 3 decades after Mr. Prakash Singh filed that case, we're still debating on police reforms, why they've not been implemented. But, coming to this particular case, we'll start with the Kolkata rape and murder case. What is it about the police, the conduct of the police, that shocked you? We just read out what the Supreme Court, one of the justices of the Supreme Court, had to say about the police. What are your observations about the way the Kolkata police conducted this investigation?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm so happy that you have raised this question. This is of paramount importance. The Calcutta police stands totally compromised today and has disgraced the uniform. And when I say disgraced the uniform, not a single statute of the rule book was implemented in letter or spirit or both in the course of the investigation. To the contrary, everything was done to compromise the truth and the investigation so that the truth never emerges. The reasons may be manifold, and the primary reason being they are under total control and the vice-like grip of their political masters. It is akin to following the line prescribed by the political bosses, and the police are doing exactly what his master's voice would dictate. Prakash Singh versus Union of India started in 1996, judgment 2006, and lo and behold, even after 18 years, 2 decades, not much has happened to have a faithful implementation of those 7 points. What to talk of implementation? Judge after judge serving chief justices of the Supreme Court said, what can I do if the chief ministers are not cooperating? Observation number 1. Observation number 2, reforms come and reforms go. Well, there's nothing much that you can do. The fact of the matter is that if a full bench bench of the Supreme Court gives a judgment, that is the law of the land, and not to follow it, I feel, is a gross contempt of court. And the letter and spirit, and unofficially, when I have spoken to my politician friends, of the national level importance, they have said, the day we implement police reforms, we will become redundant and useless. Our politics starts from the police chowkis and ends at the police station. If we give up our control, vice-like grip on the police, then there will be no politics for us to do. We'll have to venture into other occupations.
Absolutely, and very well said, Dr. Singh. The fact that, the vice-like grip that the politicians have on the police is literally what's keeping many of them going. And in fact, this observation that Mr. Prakash Singh once told me is that, the police in a lot of states function like the erstwhile state forces, Ashok, if you remember, the state forces that a lot of, princely states in pre-independent India had. That's the way police forces function in a lot of states. And this is something that we've seen, literally witnessed firsthand in West Bengal, the shoddy investigation by the Kolkata police, which has been raised by the Supreme Court as well. But Dr. Vipul Mudgal now joins us. He's Director and Chief Executive of Common Cause. Dr. Mudgal, we've all seen what the Kolkata police did, or rather did not do, in this very sensational case of this horrific rape and murder that we just saw. There is a pattern to this. In every such sensitive case, you have the police literally acting in a manner that suggests collusion with the perpetrators, which is why crime scenes are manipulated, evidence vanishes, witnesses turn hostile, all of this. Given the fact that we have a judgment as landmark as what the Supreme Court gave in 2006, a full bench of the Supreme Court, in the Prakash Singh versus Union of India case, isn't there some way that we can get states to implement some of the key recommendations that the Supreme Court gave? The 7 directives that the Supreme Court gave in 2006, 6 for the states and 1 for the center.
Yeah. Who would know it better than us? We were the co-petitioners, Sandeep. Common Cause was a co-petitioner
Yes.
with Mr. Prakash Singh in the police reforms case. So, we have been pursuing this case in our own way, although it is being led by Mr. Prakash Singh completely. And I agree with Mr. Singh, who said, spoke just before me. He said the state governments have no political will.
Yes.
If they want to, they can probably do. See, there have been things, very simple things like a police complaints commission. Now,
Right.
police complaints commission has to function at the district level. So the state after state is making sure that it does not function, or if it functions under the thumb of the, of police leadership of that district. So there are, all the 7 directives you talked about, we know them backwards. The State Security Commission for
Yes.
Transfers and Promotions. You remember this case of Sachin Waze?
Yes.
Who was who murdered
the Maharashtra
somebody.
police officer, absolutely, yes.
Maharashtra police officer in his attempt to kind of solve a case which he himself had brought up, which was like taking a SUV in front of an industrialist house,
Yes.
and he's created a terrorism case. He was suspended police officer for 16 years, and he was reinstated just like this, because
Yes.
one home minister of Maharashtra wanted him to be reinstated, because according to the police commissioner later, after he was removed from his post, he said that he was supposed to collect rupees 100 crores every month for the politician. And these are serious people. These are very important
Absolutely.
people talking. The other thing I want to say is that after Nirbhaya case, which shook the conscience of this country, not far back, this
Right.
is just about 2012, we had a very important committee which was formed under none other than Justice J.S. Verma, one of India's most illustrious judges.
Yes.
I thought there was a very senior jurist, Gopal Subramaniam, who was part of this thing. Justice Leela Seth was part of the committee. Now, I can understand that the police reform case is almost like an omnibus case.
Yes.
Okay, it concerns everything, starting from transfers and promotions to kind of dismissals, disciplinary action, appointments, etc. But what about this? This committee, a recent report, was a focused report on sexual harassment cases, on the security of women in the country. There were very simple recommendations, like a rape case cell should be set up.
Yes.
The moment you hear of a case like this, then Paramveer Singh, it's a famous ruling of the Supreme Court of India that all police stations should be covered by CCTV,
Yes.
functioning CCTV. And in cases like this, the FIRs should be allowed to be filed online, and they should be registered immediately. Now, today, even in places where you can file online FIRs, they concern only vehicle theft cases and stuff like that. You can't file a rape petition
Right.
and it's not just West Bengal, it's happening in Maharashtra and many other places. So, the recommendations about family members, recommendations about members of the public, recommendations about training of the police officers, specifically, in areas of sexual offenses
Yes.
and things like community policing, etc. So we have not done much, in fact, to implement. A Nebra fund has been created. A lot of money is flowing from center to states and within states to thanas, and there are some places lit up better than they were earlier. But we have not addressed it adequately.
We haven't addressed it adequately, and Ashok, case after case is the same story. It starts with a sensational crime, and then it finally all boils down to the state of police, whether it is that sensational case in Mumbai of, as our panelists were mentioning, the Antila case, where Sachin was a investigating officer, was actually the guy who was, committing many of the crimes according to what the police have discovered. And as Dr. Singh mentioned, the fact that the police are in the vice grip of the politicians. Given the fact that you have something as simple as the constitution that mentions law and order as a state subject, will this continue forever? Are we fated to see this battle continuing, that states holding on to the police and saying, no, I will not reform them, I will keep them exactly the way they were when the British left India? We've reformed the BNS, but we've not been able to crack police reforms.
Yes, things will not change until and unless there is a political will.
Yes.
Now, the primary problem or the principal problem with the police force in our country is politicization of the police force. They, as it was rightly pointed out by one of the panelists, that the cops have to depend for their transfers, postings, and other benefits that come to them in the due course of their service. They have to depend on the politician doling it out to them.
Right.
The second thing is, as far as a incident like a Nirbhaya case or a Kolkata rape and murder case is concerned, that it also points to a very important fact that there is a crying need to train the police force, in the sense that, look, you can't teach old monkeys new tricks. Right. Now, let's forget about the cops who've already joined the force or who are a part of the force. But the focus should be on the people who are now going to join the force.
Yes.
There has to be a degree of sensitization.
Right.
There is a very crying need to sensitize the police force, saying that, look, you are no longer part and parcel of the colonial police force that existed before 1947. You have to meet the aspirations and demands of the people. You have to interact with them. You have to communicate to them. You have to respond to their complaints. Now, the Calcutta rape and murder case is a case and study where the cops were not only negligent in performing the duties, but they were not sensitive enough to the incident that had taken place. Now, there is a delay, not really a long delay, but there is a huge delay of 12 hours in registering of the first information report. Now, this only happens after the body of this 31-year-old doctor is cremated, and even 3 hours after the cremation is an FIR lodged. FIR should have been lodged the moment the police came to know that an incident of this nature had taken place. When they examined the body of the doctor there, it would have revealed itself that it was a ghastly offense that had been committed. And those cops had to act immediately, but they dragged their feet. They thought there was something more what met their eyes, and possibly there could have been other reasons also that they delayed the registration of the FIR. So, according to me, three things. One is depoliticization of the police force, secondly training, and third thing is again decolonization of the police force.
Dr. Singh, I'm going to ask you these 3 points that Ashok raised, that depoliticization of the police force, training, sensitization, and of course decolonization. Is there a roadmap that you have in mind at all, given the fact that how deeply politicized the police forces. Do you think any of these could be implemented in the next decades or so?
I asked these questions when I joined the service in 1974, and it was said that maybe in the next 5 years, you will have a much, much better situation. And the answer to all your questions would be yes, by 1980. Come 2024, I don't see it happening in the foreseeable future because we are more feudal today, more inefficient, and more hostile and anti-people than we were ever today. I would say that our use of force would beat even the Britishers hollow. The sensitization is not there, the training is appropriate training is not there. We get the best stuff as far as brains are concerned, the best men and women in the country join the IPS now.
Yes.
Boys and girls from the IIT and IM. But something transformed them in the next 10 years that ki ma badaulat aur huzur wala, as if the Mughal emperor is entering the court. We get that feudal mindset and it doesn't go away.
Yes.
That has to go. We are the servants of the people. Politicians come and politicians go. But the fact of the matter is, when you reach my stage, you are accountable to your conscience and the Almighty. For heaven's sake, my young friends in the IPS, the leadership can create wonder. Let us not be insulated. The government will not insulate us from politics, but we can insulate from the frivolous issues and be accountable to the rule of law. That is my one-liner to my young police friends.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that point that you made about our best and our brightest still that joined the IPS, Dr. Singh, but miraculously transformed into, many of them indeed are transformed into the very feudal icons that we despise. But Dr. Vipul Mudgal, is there any hope at all? Is there something that you see, any light at the end of the tunnel? Is there something like we saw the Indian Penal Code being modified, you have the BNS coming in. Do you see anything like that happening with the police reforms? I mean, and can India, I mean, lastly, but can India become a developed nation by 2047 with the kind of antiquated, police force that we have?
Yeah, no, I think don't be too, get too carried away by the new BNS, etc. I mean, they have, instead of some parts of it, and some parts of it are better, there's no doubt, and there as should be, but some parts of it are so ridiculous that I would use the would use the term recolonization rather than decolonization. Take for example this. If there was a case of police atrocity, custodial death, or custodial violence, or police firing, there was a mandatory inquiry by a judicial magistrate. Now the BNS has changed it, that the new laws have changed it to an inquiry, mandatory inquiry by a magistrate. Right. So the judicial word is missing. Although even judicial inquiries, as Dr. Singh would know better than me, even those can be tempered with. But the fact that you remove it, that means an SDM, who's a magistrate, can also conduct an inquiry in places where a police commissioner is a magistrate, can conduct an inquiry. This is why are we going back on things like this? Let's see the NCRB reports. In fact, India has done some fabulous work. Our NCRB reports are coming out continuously, although some portions of it have not been kind of disclosed to the public, like how many, the diversity of the police, how many police officers come from the minority, etc. But look at these numbers. There has been a slight increase in the cases of crime against women in the last few years.
Yes.
There is, rather than going down, which means we are actually moving in the opposite direction. There has been an increase in child rape cases.
Yes.
And you would know what happened in Maharashtra recently.
Yes.
There was a case of child rape. Justice Pardiwala said, in fact, in this Kolkata case, that he said this is not very surprising. Post-mortem precedes registration of unnatural death cases. This is nothing really surprising for it. And please remember, the entire society is also responsible apart from the police. The way the doctors deal with some of these cases, they just do the bidding of the authorities or the, what is coming from the state government. Look at the magistrates. There is a role of the magistrate in every serious case. There is a role of the doctor, the forensic scientist. All these infrastructures will have to be built. You just
Absolutely.
go
All the
into
pillars of the
recommendations.
justice system are
Exactly.
are in deep
Yeah.
decay and in need of reform. But Ashok, police reforms again, one of the most critical pillars of the entire justice system, that has been untouched largely, and that's come out so horrifically in the Kolkata case. No short-term solution possible, with given the kind of antagonism that the center and the states have. You don't see anything coming out of this.
See, there cannot be any short-term solutions to this problem. It has to be looked at a long-term measure.
Yes.
So firstly, what I believe is that these are small steps that we'll have to start taking, is that focus more on training of the new police
Yes.
personnel which we are getting. It can be done, whether there's a political will or not a political will,
Absolutely.
that can always be done. The second thing is that whenever you encounter cases of delinquency, negligence, or any other misdeed by a cop, it should be made a punishable offense in the sense, and it should be treated on priority basis. The case should be completed on a priority basis, because I
Right.
say this because a larger message goes out to the police force that, look, if I or some other person is going to act in a negligent manner, I
Yes.
will not be spared. So that message has to go out.
That message
and that
has to go
message
out.
has to go out that
Absolutely.
no political master will be able to save you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ashok, and thanks for joining us, Dr. Mudgal, Dr. Vikram Singh, as we speak about reforms delayed and justice denied. It's once more become evident in this horrific Kolkata rape and murder case.